Welcome back into Weekend Joe, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, Munganess Alton Toyota here on ClaibsOnline.com. Last weekend I was talking about college football, went and saw the Utah State UConn game over the weekend. That was week 0. We are now officially in week 1 of the college football season, so we got to get our guy on, Tom Dienhart of goldandblack.com, also with Rivals from Yahoo, talking a little college football, talking a little B1G football, and everything that happened over the offseason. Tom, what's going on, man? How excited is this Christmas morning for you?
Yeah, good to see you, Joe Roderick. Yeah, Christmas morning, my friend. Just not wearing my footy pajamas, right? Yeah, every college football fan's stocking is stuffed with a plethora, if you will, of great college football matchups to take the lid off this always much anticipated season, right? So, again, like you said, Joe, last week we got a little appetizer, right? A few games splashed here and there across America, but now we get full-blown football starting tonight, my friend, Friday, Saturday, and even Sunday. So just a boatload of college football these next few days.
I mean, we're doing, as we sit here and we're recording this on Thursday morning. I mean, you have a game tonight right there in West Lafayette, and not only that, I mean, it's September 1st, and we are having a Big Ten conference game the first week of the season. Most of these teams are scheduling cupcakes, and no, Penn State and Purdue, they're going to go at it in week 1.
Yeah, they've tried to do this in recent years, Joe. I think it's all driven, of course, by the TV networks. They're writing these big fat checks, Joe. So they tell the league, saying, we want some type of conference inventory each week of the year. So this is one of their, I guess, Big Ten clashes to kick off the season. So, yeah, and of course, also on Saturday, we're going to get Indiana playing Illinois, a Big Ten conference game as well. So, yeah, we get little dribs and drabs, if you will, of Big Ten games from week 1 all the way to week 12 or 13. And this is very interesting. Purdue, Penn State, 2 programs with, I think, good expectations this year, Joe. I think this is a referendum maybe for James Franklin at Penn State. I think year 9, I think the program is lagging. They want to get back to that Ohio State, Michigan level. And again, there's some pressure this year, I think, and some urgency for him to get that program going. And for Purdue, Joe, coming off a 9-win year, a lot of excitement in West Lafayette. They think they have a team that has a chance to maybe be a dark horse and make a run at that Big Ten West title.
And then, I mean, as far as the Big Ten goes, too, it's a non-conference game, but this weekend it's a pretty big one on the schedule. Notre Dame and Ohio State kicking off the season, too.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman, first-year coach at Notre Dame, going back to his alma mater where he was a linebacker for the Buckeyes. And a lot of pressure on Marcus taking over for Brian Kelly. He's never been a head coach, and he goes right in the deep end, right? He's going right into the cauldron of college football in Columbus, Ohio, the Horseshoe, Ohio State. Joe, that's a team some people think is the best in America. So Marcus Freeman will get his coaching chops tested right out of the gate. The Irish are like a 17.5-point underdog.
Yeah.
Some people think that's too big of a number for a team that's number 5. But, Notre Dame does have its questions on offense, so it's going to be a heck of a test for the Irish. And again, Joe, we're going to get to see how good the Buckeyes really are right out of the gate against one of the college football's biggest brands.
You have Freeman, that's a former Buckeye. His defensive coordinator, James Laurinaitis, a Buckeye, Hall of Famer there with the Buckeyes. They're all going. I mean, that's as you mentioned, that spread. I cannot think of better people to prepare you for going and playing at the Horseshoe than those guys that had to play at the Horseshoe. It seems like they will have that Notre Dame team more than prepared.
Yeah, it's going to be, a great, like I said, little lifter for both those programs, and a great debut for Marcus Freeman. A chance, like I said, for him to show America, I should say, what he's all about. And of course, he was a guy who really earned his reputation coaching at Cincinnati for Luke Fickell before going to South Bend to work for Brian Kelly. Now, of course, he's wearing the big headset. So that's one of many intriguing games. I know a lot of SEC fans in the St. Louis area. Utah at Florida. Very intriguing matchup with the Utes traveling across the country to play in Gainesville, Florida against first-year coach Billy Napier. Georgia and Oregon, Dan Lanning, the first-year coach for the Oregon Ducks, going to take on the mighty Georgia Bulldogs. So, again, just fun dribs and drabs of kind of interesting contest across the nation for this first big weekend.
And then you have there's one other two ranked teams playing each other. It's Cincinnati and Arkansas down in Fayetteville too. So you do have a few games that when you look at them, you expect them to be pretty competitive games. What does that say though when you do have the number 5 team in the nation, going back to Notre Dame, when you have the number 5 team in the nation, a 17-point underdog? What does that say about how the balance is, how top heavy these teams are, that you have Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, those guys up top?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's a small elite group of schools that really may have a chance to make this college football playoff and win a national championship. And obviously, the Buckeyes are always going to be one of those teams. We've seen Notre Dame in the playoff in recent years too. So yeah, everybody else is sort of fighting to maybe be that breakthrough team that happens, like Cincinnati last year, right? Got to the college football playoff. And the Bearcats, like you said, going to Fayetteville, Arkansas. I'm not sure if you've ever been to a game down there, but it's crazy. Great fans, great atmosphere. And again, Sam Pittman, the Razorback coach, really has that program on the upswing. Talk a little bit about Cincinnati. I tell you what, Pickles done a great job there, but, they lost their quarterback. They lost their top receiver. They lost their top running back. So, again, we'll see how or what type of depth, I guess, Pickles built at Cincinnati. If it's a case where he can reload and not rebuild down there in the Queen City with the Bearcats.
Yeah, I haven't done my research on what I'm about to say here, but I mean, the games you get in these week one games, these are the ones that you usually will see, like 5-6 years, like 2016, we were probably watching a game on a Saturday on ESPN, and it scrolled across the bottom saying Ohio State and Notre Dame scheduled to play each other in 2022. And you're looking at that and you're going, that's not a real year. That's 6 years away. We don't care about that type of stuff. But now we get here, and the kids that are played in this game were in 7th grade when that game was announced. Yeah. And now they're in the big time. So we've talked about the big names. We've talked about those big teams. Is there another game out there that you kind of look at and you go, I'm excited about this now? 6 years ago, I thought, I don't care. But now you look at it and you think, okay, you know what? This has an opportunity to be a pretty fun football game.
I think for me, it's actually tonight, Thursday night. It's the renewal of the Backyard Brawl, Pitt versus West Virginia, two iconic programs, at least in that part of the country, Joe. Fierce rivals. They used to play on an annual basis for years. The rivalry was suspended recently. They haven't played in a number of years, and they're going to square off again. And to me, that's what college football is all about. And that's been, I guess, some fallout from all this conference realignment. We've seen some of these great iconic rivalries fall to the wayside, and the Pitt West Virginia one has been one of those great rivalries. You'd love to see these schools play every year, where we're going to get to see a lot of that vitriol reintroduced to America when they clash. They're not that far apart, both those schools, Pitt and down to Morgantown, West Virginia. So that's going to be sort of a fun game between two fierce rivals that could have some good fireworks.
I'm glad you mentioned that conference realignment, because that was the story of the offseason. We know that Texas and Oklahoma are heading to the SEC. We don't know exactly when. I mean, it could be next year, could be a few years from now. We're kind of waiting to find out when that's going to be done. And then you have USC, UCLA. They're going to the Big Ten. And as a guy that covers the Big Ten and has covered the Big Ten for so long, I mean, that's making a little longer road trips for you now, but that's bringing some big name universities into a conference that has been mostly Midwest for the entirety of its existence. What are your thoughts on the expansion of the Big Ten?
Yeah, back in 2014, they cast their eyes to the east and brought in Rutgers and Maryland to sort of bring in some very heavily populated Eastern Seaboard institutions. So that was the first, I guess, foray to Big Ten expansion, at least of recent Big Ten expansion, Joe. And now, like you said, we've got the news that broke this summer with USC and UCLA slated to come to the Big Ten in 2024, just two scant seasons away. Of course, television drives all this. And everything, most decisions in life get back to money, right? And the Big Ten can make more money by taking its brand to the West Coast. Los Angeles in particular, we all know how big LA is and the TV market that it has. We know about the history of those two football programs as well. So on the surface, home run additions, correct? And now everybody's sort of waiting on that next shoe to drop. And there have been reports last week about Oregon talking to the Big Ten. There are reports this week about Washington talking to the Big Ten. So, we're getting to two super conferences, right? Big Ten, SEC. Some people think that each conference is going to have 20 to 24 schools when it's all said and done. There seems to be a lot of buzz and a lot of talk and projections about Oregon, Washington, Cal, and Stanford all coming to the Big Ten at some point. Will Notre Dame ever come? I guess that's the big question. But I think the Big Ten would like to probably have a few more schools out west to partner with USC and UCLA just to help from a scheduling standpoint. But again, Joe, bigger. That's what these two conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten, are going to continue to do.
And as big as all those get and as big as the money gets for the TV deals, we're still stuck at 4 teams in a playoff to end it all. It seems like
that'll change soon.
Yeah. When do you see that finally happening? Because it seems like there is some stubbornness from some to do that, but it's, I think, very clear to a lot of people that it needs to be done to add excitement to it. It'll be, that makes it fun when you get to the end and have 8 teams with an opportunity.
Yeah, I think there's a report that this Friday then there's going to be discussions about expanding the playoff, maybe as soon as 2024, probably 2026. I think from what you read, there's some logistical issues if they want it to happen as soon as 2024. But it's coming, right? And you're right. There was a chance for that thing to get rubber stamped last summer, and the ACC and the Big Ten and the Pac-12 did not rubber stamp it. So we could have had a 12-team playoff ASAP, basically. And now, again, that kicked the can down the road. And but now this has been, I guess, a reemerging story, like I said, where the discussions are going to begin in earnest on Friday. So, again, it's just a matter of time, Joe, like you said. 8 teams, 12 teams, 16 teams. I would love to see 16 teams. I think 12 would be good. Sounds like, it's going to be a system where you're picked on your ranking. You're not going to get automatic bids for the most part. So just all that large bids for the most part. So, yeah, I think it would keep more teams involved late into the season trying to pursue these playoff bursts because let's be honest, bowl games are great, but they mean absolutely nothing, Joe. And we're seeing more and more players just skip these bowl games because they know they mean nothing. We could have more games that mean a lot in an expanded playoff, and the matchups could be enticing. And, Joe, you know what, buddy? I think they finally realized maybe the light bulb went off over their heads that, hey, you know what? We're leaving a lot of money on the table. We can make a boatload more money if we had a 12 or 16-team playoff because these TV networks can write big fat checks for that.
They sure can. And money also was a big deal this offseason when you're talking the NIL money.
Yeah.
And the other big story was the transfer portal. So which team out there right now do you think has benefited the most? And we will see that in the play or the talent that they have out there because of the transfer portal and because of some recruits they were able to bring in for that NIL money. What team are we looking at this year?
Well, I think it's USC without a doubt. I think they had more transfers than anybody, a very aggressive NIL program as well. Of course, they have the new head coach, Lincoln Riley, came from Oklahoma. And lo and behold, Joe, the Oklahoma quarterback, Caleb Williams, landed at USC. He transferred to USC, and they got the best wide receiver in America, Jordan Addison from Pitt. So on and on it went for USC. I think it was 15 or 20 transfers they've added. And again, a great NIL opportunities too. So that's the program that's sort of an interesting X factor. How will all this talent mesh together? Can it happen that quickly at USC for a first-year head coach? It's going to be one of the, like I said, the more fun, interesting teams to watch this year to see how, again, all that chemistry develops.
Tom, who's your pick for that national championship this year?
I do like Ohio State. C.J. Stroud. I know, He's going to have competition on the Heisman Trophy. Bryce Young obviously is back, but boy, C.J. Stroud's special. That offense is special. Another group of great receivers, tremendous running back in Travion Henderson. The question for the Buckeyes, Joe, is going to be the defense. They went out and hired Oklahoma State's defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles. They're paying him almost $2 million a year to fix that defense. That defense is as good as it's been reported to be, at least through spring football and camp. I mean, the Buckeyes could have what it takes to punch the ticket and win their first title, I think, since 2014. So, Georgia's going to be right there, right? What's Clemson going to have? Can they have a rebound season, if you will? All the teams in the SEC, obviously, too. Texas A&M, to me, that's a fascinating team. So much young talent. Can Jimbo Fisher take the next step there in that rigorous SEC West? Bama's Bama, right? So, again, there's any collection of maybe 7, 8 schools that probably have good chances to make the playoff. But I think when it's all said and done, I think not only will Ohio State make it, I think the Buckeyes are going to win it.
15 years ago today, Appalachian State beat Michigan at the Big House. Think we'll see anything like that happen this weekend?
That's funny. I was sitting still at the WA Dome back then, watching Mizzou play Illinois, and we kept seeing the updates for that score, Appalachian State and Michigan. Couldn't believe you kept waiting for Michigan to put the pedal to the metal, right? Knock these guys out. It didn't happen. Yeah, I mean, why not? This is the great time to upset teams. The very first game of the year, right? There's no preseason games. These teams really don't know what they've got. There's still a lot of figuring out to do. And I think if you're ever going to get ambushed, week 1, first game of the year, is a great time to get ambushed. So everybody loves those upsets, don't they? So maybe we'll get treated to some Titanic upset from an FCS school, knocking off an FBS school. The Big Ten's got several matchups like that this weekend. Got North Dakota playing at Nebraska, South Dakota State's playing at Iowa, and Illinois State's playing at Wisconsin. So those are just a few of those that could be Titanic upsets if they happen.
I know I'm trying to look here quickly to see who the Bison are from North Dakota State are playing, because that's always there always seem to be that team that can do it.
Yeah.
And as I'm scrolling through quickly, I'm not seeing if they have a week 1 game this weekend. So. Nope, I'm just not seeing it. So we'll have to figure that out at a different time and see who the Bison might have on the schedule that they can knock. But those D1 teams aren't scheduling them anymore. They beat too many of them. They ruined it for themselves.
Like I said, there's these aren't FCS schools, but there's a couple matchups in North Carolina. You've got North Carolina State is at East Carolina, and you've got North Carolina is at Appalachian State.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that, Joe. NC State and UNC are going on the road to play in-state schools that are, again, just group of 5, East Carolina and Appalachian State. That's that. I salute them for taking on those games, going on the road and playing those teams. It means a lot to those schools, those communities. And again, you want to talk about upset. It wouldn't be a shock to see East Carolina or App State maybe win one of those 2 games.
Tom, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the football this weekend.
Thank you, Joe. Be good.